Okay, people, you might recognize my guest. It's been a minute, right? But today we have the great Daniel Bowhers, and we're here to talk about his second joint, right? Beyond the Drumlines. Daniel.
Drumlins, man. Drumlines would be the Nick Cannon film, which people
See,
keep thinking this is a sequel to.
yeah, I was like, oh, Beyond the Drumlines. I bet some people are going to think it's the Nick Cannon. Drumlins.
Yeah, so it's a geographical feature on the ground. It's essentially hills that are usually made from either erosion or shifting plates. Apparently, they're really common in Ireland and New England. I'm from New England. I've grown up going to this place called Drumlin Farms. So for me, it's always been in the zeitgeist. But yeah, that E is a huge, huge issue.
Oh man, well, I've been pronouncing shit wrong. Okay,
It's fine. Sorry to come in hot with a correction.
I mean, most of these things seem to start that way because I mispronounced someone's name or something. So we're on form.
My name is a lot less important than the title of the film right now.
So was that the kind of the thing that got this, like just remembering your youth and growing up around these things?
I mean, kind of. The Beyond the Drumlins is sort of like it's like the sister film to Blue Hour, The Disappearance of Nick Brandrath. So both of these films have taken elements of the short film that I made called 10, 13, 12. And I've sort of offshot two different stories, two different ways. And there was just this drumlin in Rochester, New York, beneath where we were shooting. And it just sort of is like a real striking image. It's in the film when they kind of come over the hill and transition into the forest. So childhood, yeah, a little bit. I definitely like dig archeology, and yeah, I like the forest. You have to like the forest to go shooting it for as long as we did.
How long was the shoot for this?
20 days
Yo.
in upstate New York, with all but two of them were in the forest. And if you're familiar with the weather in upstate New York or Rochester specifically, it's unpredictable. And somehow we lucked out. That's what happens with these sort of like low budget nature films. You either get lucky or you don't. And we got lucky, thankfully.
Ooh, that's a bit of a relief.
Very much so.
So this is kind of, so would you say all three films are kind of, they're in the same universe?
Kind of. Like 10, 13, 12, the short, it's sort of just like this acid fever dream. And we made it for like next to nothing, and it kind of put us on the map. Like that's the movie that got us into Panic Fest. It screened in the UK on television at one point. Like it just sort of, it was our first thing that kind of broke through in any meaningful way. There's one character from Blue Hour that also exists in Drumlins. So they are kind of connected, but it's not like I'm trying to make like a cosmic horror MCU situation here. There was just the one character that kind of worked for both.
Right. That's cool though. Like just to have that kind of themic connection between the projects.
Yeah,
I think it would be opposite, as it were.
Yeah, I think Cosmic Dread is interesting. And the fear, those sort of existential horrors frighten me more than most other things.
Yeah, in the EPK, I see, a reference is Lys's Annihilation. And it's definitely got that kind of vibe, that kind of slow boil kind. We're simmering all the way through, and then suddenly you get a little bubble, and you're like, oh, simmer, and then it just bubbles again, and you're like, oh man, damn.
I think Annihilation is a good reference point because of the way it kind of merges a lot of like sci-fi into something kind of tangible and real, or real-ish. The one that was really in my head, there's two films that really influenced the writing and production of this, which Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter's, I would say, underrated classic. That's a team of scientists going into a church and discovering like a transmission from the devil, essentially. And that movie played real big in my mind, but I wanted the characters to be more likable. And then there was a lot of British like folk horror films, but Mark Jenkins' Ennis Men was definitely on my mind a lot. I think that film is fantastic, and it's so weird and up a piece and singular. And I hope that this movie plays similarly to that. And that movie also haunted me for like a month.
So you just thought you would, help disturb a new generation of peoples.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I think trying to make like the goriest, gnarliest horror movie is kind of a losing proposition because there's always going to be something else coming. So if you can kind of tap into something that we already feel, you can hopefully create something that people either still discover in the future or always sort of has a footing in our subconscious.
Well, I think the thing being sometimes is when you have a big monster, right? That's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can look and you go, I mean, yeah, it's kind of crazy. But I know I'm not bumping into that. But when you have something kind of psychological, like slightly skewered, it's always kind of like, that's more possible, right? Like you find these weird archaeological kind of things oftentimes. So you're just like, we see these things, pay no mind to them. We just think, oh, that's kind of cool. But what if? Right? What if? You know what I mean? You touched it in the right place and you triggered it. You turn this shit on. Like, what if the sun hits it at the right point? The moon is on the right day. Like, what if? So it's more kind of feasible when it's that. And I think that's what makes things like this unnerving. And you're just like, yo, I feel uncomfortable right now.
I think it's why things like The Thing, because The Thing kind of walks both of those lines. That's a movie where it is a creature, but it's a creature that becomes you. And I think that sort of shiftlessness and shapelessness, I guess, it allows it to adapt and allows you to use your imagination to kind of connect the dots. And at least for me personally, like that's always a little bit more frightening. Art the Clown can do gross things, and I'm not trying to like pick on Terrifier. Those movies are great, and they have had huge success that I can only imagine. It's just not my bag, and I think there will always be another Terrifier.
Yes.
And maybe in 20 years, we're not going to hold those in the same regard. Audiences who love them now will, but I just think it's kind of a losing proposition to try to be the gnarliest, and it's not my demeanor.
Well, it's funny because I saw a trailer. I got to the cinema. I try and always time it so I miss the trailers, and I got there slightly earlier, and I saw the tail end of the Scream 7 trailer.
Oh, interesting.
And I was just a bit like, because you have this bit where she's like, oh, I'm ready for you. You know what I mean? She's like, you feel like Sydney's been prepping for this dude, right? She's taught her daughter about all of this shit that, it's all kind of like, okay, you can't fuck with us. And in her house, she's kind of built a corridor behind the walls. And you're thinking, okay, kind of escape room, a passage, that all makes sense. What doesn't make sense then is the fact that he's putting a knife through the wall. I'm just like, if you're doing all of this, wouldn't you reinforce the fucking wall? You make it of something, a knife cut. He uses a knife, right? So wouldn't you just knife-proof the fuck out of everything? You know what I mean? So it's just, you can watch these things and you just go, I don't know, right?
I think Scream and Beyond the Drumlins will always scratch different itches for different audiences. And I love Scream. I'm actually I'm hopefully going to go check out the new Scream movie this weekend. You know, I think the cool thing about a Scream movie is it's not really a slasher so much as it is like a who's doing it. It's sort of like an Agatha Christie mystery that's happening as opposed to being like a whodunit. And
yeah,
you know, it's fun, it's meta, it's, you know, it's not the same thing. But yeah, I think we'll see. I'm not holding up super high expectations. I think they've been kind of diminishing returns, aside from Scream 4, which I do stand by. That movie's fucking great. The movie was very prescient in its like understanding of where our relationship with media and like vlogging and all kinds of like social media influencers was going to go.
I'm not sure if I've seen that one.
It's worth checking out. I mean, it's like Alison Brie's in it. Emma Roberts, one of the Culkins, the good Culkin.
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's a very fun movie. I think since that, I mean, the requels have been okay. It's been like, you know, they're fine. I'm not here to shit talk about people's movies.
No, see, the thing is, like, they've got their audience, right? And that's great. Like, it's just my point I'm trying to make is just in the fact being with those films and things like that, it's not as scary because you can kind of see the setup to it. As I said, like, if you're really trying to protect yourself from that person, everything would be knife proof. You know what I mean? You're wearing a stab proof vest. You're like, there's things that you would do, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, you see all of these things happening and it's fun and, you know, ridiculous. But you go, okay, but in a real scenario, are you doing that shit? But when it's like this weird psychological thing, right, that's just kind of pulling at the threads of, you know, sanity, that's when it becomes really kind of messy, because how do you prepare for that shit, right? How do you work a defense to that kind of thing from like taking over you?
Yeah, and I think one thing that I really like about cosmic horror is that I think the problem and what we tried to solve with Drumlins is making the cosmic horror really, I wouldn't say relatable, but bringing it home. So much cosmic horror. I mean, I'm not just because it's a deep space movie, but those sort of existential, pushing the boundaries of the human brain, like that requires like top end science. You know, you get to movies like Event Horizon, which it sounds weird, but that's one of my like favorite Sunday afternoon films.
Oh,
there's a sequel coming.
See, this is the thing, right? They've been talking about this sequel for at least 10 years. And I'm hoping it doesn't. But yeah, every now and again, it pops up again. And you hear more chatter about this supposed sequel. And I'm just like, I don't want it, because I don't. Maybe it's going to
You've locked
be Top Gun. It could also be coming to America.
It could.
And I don't want that.
I mean, I'm hopeful just because it is, I think, one of the better cosmic horror films. You know, like Color Out of Space does a good job of like suburbanizing cosmic horror themes to some extent. But, you know, I really like that challenge of bringing those themes into somebody's, you know, I'm not trying to put down academics here, but like it is a little bit more ho-hum than like something like Reanimator, which is looking at like groundbreaking science. This is just, you know, college professors teaching like the most basic stuff for their students, which that kind of draws me in a bit more. I'm like, oh, these are normal people. And that makes it a little bit more terrifying than it being like someone who's pushing the boundaries of what humans know.
Well, I think that's the problem with this film though, man, right? Because you're gonna have, you know, there's gonna be some people and they'll be like, yo, what should we do this weekend? Oh, you enjoyed the Blue Hour, right? Yeah. My man's got a new film. Like, oh shit, let's watch this. And so they sit down and watch it and we're like, we are not letting little Courtney go on another fucking field trip. Fuck that, right? You're giving, is this putting in, everyone's worried, right? Like, what's the worst that could happen? You know what I mean? And then it's just, you want something like this, you'd be like, fuck, the kids are gonna go exploring.
People have expressed how this has ruined camping for them. Which, that's not the intent. I love camping. I love being in the woods. But yeah, there is creepy stuff out there for people. And, I think maybe we all do need a bit more. We need to maybe recognize that we don't rule nature.
Well, it is that. And I think it's kind of funny, right? Because we learn new things about the world all the time, right? We're told one thing, and for a good while, everyone's like in a certain mindset, be like, okay. And then you find out something completely different, and you're like, what? Like,
Yeah.
Wait, what are we saying? You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's more than one universe? Wait, what? You know what I mean? There's more moons. What is it? More moons around Saturn that they found? Or you know what I mean? It's just like we find these new things, right? We're told, oh, this is as far as you can look in a telescope. And then all of a sudden they invent this new one and it can look even further. And it's just like, say what? You know what I mean? Even you think about the pyramids, right? We were told the pyramids are one thing. And now we've had like archaeologists see that there's, I think, was it water damage on the Sphinx?
Huh.
Right. And so you can see that, I think there's part of the Sphinx that is older than the other part of the Sphinx, something like that. Right. So these things that were built at different times, you know what I mean? Like you can see the water damage. So, oh, that area. And yeah, I think it is. They've even discovered that area used to be like a rainforest or something. You know what I mean? So it's just like, we find all of these things, right? Nothing is exactly as we perceived it.
Absolutely not.
So it's just like, if you touched one of the stones in Stonehenge, could it transport you somewhere else? Like you just don't know, because we're finding out all of these different things. So I think that's where it gets super like, ooh. You know,
I mean, I'm not like a historian or like a biological, like an evolutionary biologist by any means. Barely able to speak the English language, apparently. But human beings are like, what, 5,000 years? Barely. We haven't, we're a blip. If you look at the dinosaurs, they occupied this planet for 65 million years and did a whole lot less damage than we've already done. So I like to think about things in terms of their relative space in the universe. And that can be really terrifying, because the more you zoom out, the more alone you are. And that can have like a very damaging effect on your psyche. I'm obviously a pretty damaged dude, but I think the films are trying to humanize that feeling that I have. And I think Blue Hour does something similar. I mean, unfortunately, they operate in very different genres. So if you're like a huge Blue Hour fan, if those exist, you might not be scratching the same itch with Beyond the Drumlins. This is like a much different cinematic experience, or at least I hope it is.
Yeah, no. It's you get a different vibe from this than Blue Hour, but they both do that thing of drawing you into a story, and I think that's the big one, right? You want something that captures your imagination, right, and makes you ponder and think. And I think that's what this does. And one thing I liked about this, I mean, there was a lot of things there's a lot of things I liked about it. I mean, just the one thing about your movie I actually liked, Daniel. No,
well, this was fun.
No, like oftentimes when you watch something and when you have like people, going on an adventure, exploring, or just whatever, and they're conversating, and someone could say some stupid things, and everyone acts like it's normal, and blah, blah, blah. But in here, it's just like, shut up, man. Like, you get people, and it feels like they're actually conversing in the real world rather than, some make-believe kind of PC situation that the movie wants to try and, make you think that's what we're doing.
I think we were blessed with a really great cast. The 5 core member. I mean, there's only like 7 or 8 speaking roles in the film, but those 5 core actors are fantastic. And it's been really cool because, we've won awards for best sci-fi, best drama, best horror. But the one that I appreciate the most is there was a festival that didn't really want to award a best actor, so they gave us a best ensemble, and they kind of just, because you couldn't really separate them because the 5 of them, there was almost no protagonist.
Yeah,
they're handing it off, and it's this like pitter patter that, I mean, I wrote with Mike Kowalski, he plays Jonathan, who's sort of the main professor, let's just say. But I don't think he's really the emotional core of the story. And the amount of time, our writing process is essentially I go write, and then once a week we get together and we read it out loud. And that has changed everything for me creatively, because on Blue Hour, there were situations we'd get on set and I'd hear it and I'd be like, oh, fuck, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
It's one thing to write something, it's another to hear it. And with writing with an actor has just opened up this portal of like, oh shit, we're always hearing it out loud. And that forces you to see it, to see the cut points. And, those actors were mostly living together. They were, Morgan and Mike, who's the 2 leads from Blue Hour, they're both in New York City with me. Mike G, who plays Tom, the bald guy, he's from the HBO show Oz.
Yes.
He's great. He's someone that I know from an adult basketball league. And I've just always liked Mike. We've just always gotten along, and he knows 80s basketball, and I find him hilarious. He's from Chicago. And then Emma, who plays Cameron, and Dan Titmuss has since moved back to New York, but I know he was also in LA. So we had 5 actors across 3 cities, all going to another place. And Emma is originally from Rochester, so she had family to stay with. Everyone else lived in a house together. And I think that had a really, a huge impact on their performances, because I was in the crew house and the actors had a ton of time to just be around each other. And I think that really helped. They were doing rehearsals over breakfast. I wasn't even there. They were able to like really make it their own. And, my directing style is really just about, where they are in the story, not so much the specifics. So if they don't like the words, I'm cool shifting a bit. We need to keep the tempo and the number of lines, but phrasing I'm very loose about. So, they came and they had their own ideas. And for a film that's very scripted, and for a low budget horror movie that was completely storyboarded, which is crazy for a film of this scale to have the entire thing boarded, they really put a lot of like flavor into it. And I think that's why you can feel the character. And yeah, I think character in a horror movie is, without that, it doesn't matter what you do.
Oh, for sure. Because you want to, like, I think you need to care about what might happen to everyone, right? I mean, that's the big thing why everyone tuned into Game of Thrones each week, because it was just like, you watch an episode, oh, it's called The Red Wedding. Oh, they're wearing red instead of white. It'd be like, they killed everyone. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, you just didn't know who the fuck is going to survive. And I think in a lot of times with a horror, you'll watch it and you straight away, you'd be like, okay, all of those people are dying. That person is the one that's going to make it out. Or, oh, no one's making it. Like, you just know. And you don't care.
Oh, right? Yeah. I think it's unfortunate that, like, in Game of Thrones, especially if you watch like that first season, and I will caveat that I think what they've done with the Night of the Seven Kingdoms has gotten back to this. there's room to breathe. There's like shots that, you know, we've gotten so efficiency minded with our media and like obsessed with like, do you need that? Do you need that? We've forgotten how important it is to see people be people, because that's how you connect with them.
Yeah.
And like, I want the arbitrary shots. Like we've been revisiting Stranger Things because, you know, we watched the new one, we went back to the old, and I'm like, why does it feel different? And yeah, there's color and spectacle, and obviously like they were shooting more on location, which is all stuff that I much prefer in the earlier seasons. But just like letting a shot just linger on a sun, just when it's all just pushing the narrative forward, it's just exhausting to me. I want to meander. I want to see like the British guy teaching the other woman how to like do his accent. You know, I want like nuance and stupidity. I want people being people.
Yeah.
And that's what film can do that television so rarely can at this point.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? So technology has enabled, you know, you to be able to capture things that back in the day would have cost a whole heap of cash. So that's fantastic. But you still want to be able to pay your cast, right? Pay your crew a decent wage, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, you know, you have to beg people to be like, can you spare, you know, this many days to come work on my thing? And it's just like, all right, let's try and work something out where, you know, you want to be in that situation where you can be like, yo, how about we do this? I'll pay you this. And then be like, oh shit, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, human cost is real. And like you can barter to some extent. You know, one of the ways we got Drumlins made as cheap as we did was we partnered with a hotel that had a restaurant, and they did our craft services in exchange for social media content. Because at the end of the day, paying retail for the food to feed our cast was way more expensive than what we could go and provide. So it was also a lot cheaper for this hotel to bring in our camera crew, our photographers, and stuff like that. So we just did like a work swap.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Like I'm fine with that kind of collaboration, but like not everyone has that opportunity. Not every restaurant has that need. And, you know, it's just the budgets everything just keeps going one way, and no one can afford to make their money back. You know, I can't tell you some of these filmmakers that I've spoken to at festivals over this movie's run. It's alarming. You know, I hear how much money they owe. I'm like, yikes. At least we have a very manageable debt.
Yeah, I think it is being mindful about the money you're spending, because I think something like this, it looks really good, right? Like you don't watch the film and go, I mean, it's kind of cheap, right? It doesn't look cheap at all.
Well, I'm a visual effects artist by trade, and I've done movies like Smile and, you know, big films, Super Bowl ads. So I can put, you know, lots of sweat equity into the project to polish. And that's great. And I don't mind doing that. But I think the price tag doesn't really reflect the craftsmanship at times because of just, you know, favors and stuff. And that's not just me. It's our cinematographer. It's our whole team. It's everyone working together. You know, we have really great sound recorders. People who, yeah, I think that stuff is important. But you know, it's still like we're scraping by.
Yeah, I mean, it is like for the quality of work that we see here, because as I said, like it looks great, right? It's just that ambient sound, like when you're in the forest and you can just hear everything, which helps draw you in, right? It helps set that scene and everything. The cast just, oh man, the cast do a great job, right? It's when you've got oh my god, what's his name? Mike. Yeah, when Mike is looking at the structure. And it's just that look on his face, right? And it's same when Emma does as well, right? Like it really just draws you in. You're just like, yo, what the fuck is happening? You know what I mean? They just we get these great performances, and just all the components come together and help sell this story, which is great. You know, so you want to be able to do that justice, right? You want to be able to pay for the quality of work that you're seeing, that everyone is putting into a project to, you know, give it this effect.
Yeah, we also, something I haven't mentioned is the music, which I feel like people almost don't notice because it's so perfect and eerie. But Johnny Tomasello composed this film, and it was a completely experimental process where he's an electronic and kind of ambient musician here in the city, and he has this new tool that he's developed called Brainwave. And he watched the film with no music, and he scanned his brain. And as he would react, he's measuring the electricity and the synapses in his brain. So he created graphs and charts as the frequencies would go up and down, and he would pump that through synthesizers. So we actually were able to score the film 4 times over through different synths, and just his brain was driving the music. And what we found was it was really compelling, and often it had like a slight delay because, you know, he's watching and has to process. Yeah. But like you had a 90, whatever, the film's like a 95-minute runtime. And over the course of a weekend, we were able to create 4 different 95-minute scores. And we don't have music wall to wall for 95 minutes. It needs a lot of ambience, a lot of breathing, but we're having all these moments, all these reactions, and it got us like really close. You know, we were nudging his stuff because it would get you, and sometimes you'd layer it or you'd revisit it and be like, okay, well, we go up, we need a little extra here or something like that. But it was a really cool process and something that I don't think has ever been done on any movie before.
I have never heard anything like that. That's crazy.
He's a mad scientist. I mean, we have a lot of mad scientists involved in this project, and I'm really ashamed that we talk too much about business and not art, because that stuff is much more interesting, and people are going to have to get through a whole like 20 minutes of us talking about why streaming sucks to get to that nugget, which is truly engaging content. So that's a bummer. If we could delete that, it'd be awesome. Because what Johnny has done is beautiful, you know, and using really cool 70s synths that were of the time period that we were discussing and trying to make the film feel like a part of, and all coming from his brain. It was really cool.
Damn. I wonder how he thought of that. That's...
Well, he was explaining to me how everything has electricity, like a mushroom is generating electricity.
Yeah.
And, you know, he does have a background in neuroscience. So right. He is a really, I mean, you talk to him and you just feel like, he's just sharp. And he understands, I would talk to him about like what kind of tone I was looking for. And be like, well, this is the synth that was used in Blade Runner. And, you know, he just gets, he has such a broad understanding of like 70s and 80s synthesizers and creating these really weird soundscapes. And they were so perfect for Drumlins because it doesn't really benefit from a lot of like real, you know, when the music, you don't really pick up as music. It's sort of this weird combination of music and radio frequencies, because Nick Brandrath, who was quite involved in this film too, you know, Blue Hour is about his disappearance, and he was the guy who built our structures and stuff here. He got really into ham radio, and he started recording these weird radio sounds, and that's when we started to be like, oh, right, this is sort of just about different frequencies. And then we started feeding those in and layering that with Johnny's score, and it is this like kind of weird thing where it's very primal, but the electricity in our brains is primal too.
Well, I think that is one of the things that you kind of tune into with this film, that things are kind of out of sync, right? Like things are maybe happening in these different kind of visual levels, maybe because you have someone that's there, but are they there? So are they there, but in a different frequency, right? On this different layer of time and substance and just all of whatever this craziness is. I think that's something that I don't know, there's something that was running through my mind when I was watching it.
I think it was definitely something that's on my brain all the time. I'll be walking around like the Bowery, and I think to myself like, oh, this is where the Ramones were, shooting heroin after playing at CG, playing a show. Like, I think it's cool how like time does go past us, but this weird, like there's that theory, like how light is always moving through the universe. So like this moment hasn't happened out near Jupiter yet. Like, I like to think about that. Like sometimes you get these weird feelings. Like for me, it's often like concrete, like a freshly poured foundation makes me think of my grandfather, who was a mason, like laid brick and cement and shit. And I think of that. I think of like, oh shit, there's this time where someone before was right here. And I think that's like the true. I wish we could restart this whole conversation, because this is the shit we should have been talking about. And no one's going to get to the interesting stuff. I'm really sorry. It's interesting to me to think about that, to think about, our life cycles are so short, and to think about them overlapping in terms of light and in terms of existence is, I think, really cool. The film obviously has a very bleak take on what it is to be a human, but I think it's pretty factual.
Yeah, well, it's like the arrowheads, right? It's the thinking of archeology, right? Because you're finding these things, and I think it's that. Oh God, who said it at the end? Mary. I think Mary kind of said it at the end. Well, it said this thing towards the end in regards to the arrowhead, and it's just kind of like people go and dig these things up, right? But in digging it up and bringing it somewhere else, what is that doing? You know what I'm saying? Because are these things anchored to a moment in that space? So if you're moving it, are you disrupting like the frequency of that thing? You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like, I don't know, I was thinking to myself, watching this and just thinking about all the things from around the world that get moved and taken to this museum or that museum. And you know what I mean? And it's just like, oh shit, what if that is forming some weird sort of resonance, right? You're disrupting the natural flow of that thing.
I think we're quick to forget that human history is written by humans, and like it has no sense of objectivity. I think we're also pretty quick to forget that we are just animals. The main difference, I guess there's probably a convincing argument that elephants and dolphins share this with us, but we're like pretty much the only animals that are aware that we're going to die. And I think that's a burden on us. It changes our behavior, it changes our beliefs, it shapes our day-to-day. Even if you're not like consciously thinking about it, you're still always aware of that, right? And
oh, for sure.
And that's something I was very interested in with this film.
Yeah, because when you think about when you're a kid and you will climb a tree or jump off a wall, you will do so many things that an adult is just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, that is so reckless. Do you not understand that you could die, that you could hurt yourself? And you're just like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? I'm not gonna hurt myself. I'm not dying. I'm just having fun.
That gets back to time, because at that point you've existed for 6 years. So now you don't have all the context for all the stuff along the way. And yeah, I think there is something interesting about artifacts and memory and context to our lives that, it was definitely like something that was top of mind making the film, and thinking about our place in the universe seemed like archaeology seemed like an interesting way to very quickly connect the audience to this idea that our place in the universe may be false.
Yeah. Now, with the structures, so are those actually in the woods, or were those a construct that you came up with?
Oh, they are definitely in the woods. My idea for them is sort of like they're like a horn, like a system of, but they're not supposed to be exposed. They're sort of just like these things that are calling us back to the earth, back to death kind of thing. And this one, because of erosion or whatever, it's become exposed. That's why you sort of see it's growing out. It's not really meant to be seen by people. So yeah, they're physically there. In fact, we didn't even remove them from the forest we filmed in. If you go into the right place in Rochester, you can actually go find them. The people who allowed us to shoot on that location, it's like a family-run deer hunting preserve. So if you go hunting in the woods outside of Rochester, New York, you might find the monolith. They thought it would be funny if we left them.
All right. How long was that to put together?
As we were writing, like I think Nick started building in like June, and by the time we filmed in September, it was like ready to be assembled, and we had to like bring it in. I mean, I'm a big dude. I'm like 6'5". That thing is probably 10 feet tall, the main one. And then there are a lot of what we were calling little buddies that are between like a foot and like 4 feet tall that are kind of all around. And we made this like creepy set. And, Nick we had a carpenter build these boxes, and we brought it in sections. And Nick used these models that I unwrapped of the buildings in Blade Runner. And we did like 3D die cut, glued them on, created extrusion. All the patterns are actually just like the texture maps from the movie Blade Runner that had been cut with like a programmable saw. So they were like incredibly precise, painted. Then he would like do a layer of paint with paint and sand mixed, more paint and sand, glue to like obfuscate the shapes a little bit. And then we brought them into the woods, assembled them. It took him probably 3 months. And when we installed them, there had been like a bit of high water, so we had to sort of change our plan. And it was beneath an eagle's nest, which sounds made up, but I'm telling you, there were just skulls everywhere. Because obviously the eagles like ripping apart foxes and squirrels and stuff, so they were just dead animal carcasses and like skulls. It was pretty metal.
Oh my god! Like I think I'd be like, I think we'll find a new location.
Well, when you hear like a bald eagle scream, it sounds like what you'd imagine a parrot would sound like. It's very high pitched. It's very shrill. It doesn't sound very crazy. Then you see this bird fly overhead every now and then, and you're like, holy shit, that thing's big.
Oh.
And we did have a Chihuahua with us on set, so we were always kind of worried.
Yeah.
Our assistant director insisted on bringing her Chihuahua to shoot, and we kept warning her. We're like, this could go bad.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, Gracie was unharmed. We had one night where we were shooting quite late, and you could hear the coyotes, and they were obviously ripping something apart. You can tell when a pack of coyotes is eating. And then you'd have this bald eagle swooping overhead, and you're like, oh God, I don't want to deal with this dog getting killed right now.
Oh man, that is yeah. Hearing coyotes and shit. Ooh.
I mean, we were just outside of Rochester, like 20-minute drive, but we were hiking into the forest between like quarter mile, half mile. Some of the days where the characters are more in transit, you're doing a couple miles of hiking during the shoot, carrying the equipment. I mean, it was a physically demanding experience. But I think that's how you get the really like isolating feeling. You definitely feel trapped in the forest.
Yeah, like, you don't think, oh, it should be easy getting Tanner out, right? You think, oh man, what are you gonna do now? Right? It is that thing. And I think, yeah, you've got to believe that it's gonna be a struggle, that it's not just well, surely couldn't they just do this?
Yep.
Because I watched Train Dreams, right? And the house is right by a river. And I'm kind of like, what, wouldn't they have just gone into the river when the fire came? And that was a thing that was kind of like all the way through. I'm just like, wait, but huh? So it's just like, you can't have that thing where you're just like, I don't believe in what I'm watching right now. And so with that, you kind of bought into this, heavy trek, this isolation, that they are screwed now. That there is this like, fuck, what are they going to do?
And I was quite difficult about like the trees, the types of trees, what angle. And I had very particular idea of how to accentuate that feeling, in writing the script. And the topography was very important to me. Like it says Drumlins for a reason. That if you look behind them, there's always hills. They're never on flat ground. And we had this sound mixer who made the funniest comment after one of our shoots. And he's like, probably the most accomplished member of our cast and crew. He's probably had 10 films at TIFF this year. Ian Reynolds is the man. He's like a great indie production sound mixer. And he's like, we haven't worked any overtime, but I also haven't stood on flat ground once. So he was just exhausted. He's carrying a boom pole and miking these people up, and he's just having to find footing all day long. And we knew, we're like, okay, we can't be going over 10-hour days. Like, let's keep it, let's assume an hour to load in and an hour to load out. We have 10 hours of production, and we got to move on to the next day and let people recuperate, because it was exhausting. Steadicam operator was a fucking nightmare in the forest. Like, those guys are tough, and there are scenes where people are like sprinting, and we're getting like pretty good Steadicam shots, but like it was done in a guerrilla fashion, but just a lot of close calls, a lot of people who, you'd see the Steadicam operator take a tumble. We always had like 3 people minding him. I got caught up in some, like an old fence that was sort of buried in the leaves. It was just like, everyone was like, poor Emma is walking around in socks for half the film, because
she really wrote that. That's on you, man.
I did, and I accept that. But it's important, I thought, to like put them through that. It makes the performances more believable. And Emma was a sport. She plays Cameron. I think she gives a hell of a performance. A lot of people have noticed that performance, because I think it is special. And she's like wandering around looking terrified in her socks. And what we would do is we'd map out her routes. We'd put a pair of sandals on either side. So she's walking to put her feet back in something. And I got stung by a bee on my heel. Like, I had boots on, and somehow like I managed to get a bee in my boot, stinging the bottom of my. I mean, she was fine, thankfully. I think I might have been the only injury, was me.
How the fuck does a bee get in your boot?
I must have taken them off at some point to stretch or something. There was one day where we did have like a 60-something foot tree fell across our set.
Ooh.
So we had to, and it blocked the trail to get there. So we couldn't get cast and crew in. So we had to cut a trail and stuff. So there was one day in particular where I was on my feet for almost 17 hours straight. Because we had to clear a trail, clear a down tree. And it was like actually the camping set. So it was like the only like physical place where we were like, this has to look the same. Every other piece of forest, it would have been fine. But, it was a physically demanding experience. And I think for everyone involved, a pretty positive one.
Like, with something like this, is there a regime that you have to do before you start, right, to get to a level of fitness where you can go on a shoot like this?
I know our DP started like lifting weights before. I ran cross country in college and am always kind of going to the gym or cycling or something. And Nick Brandreth is the same. I think Mike Kowalski, who plays Jonathan and co-wrote it, he started doing CrossFit before. I don't know if Morgan did anything. She's like a theater girl. The big thing for her was just getting comfortable with being in the woods.
Right. Yeah.
And by the end, she was. There was a moment. It was pretty tough at first for her. Morgan had to do some of that in Blue Hour, like be in uncomfortable woodland situations. But then we would be like, "Where's Morgan?" And she would be like playing with frogs. She came around. Like by the end, she got pretty comfortable. She's just playing with the frogs down by the river because there was like a little stream. It was so physical, and in the end, I think that helps the film.
Well, there was something that I was a little worried about, and then I was like, okay, yes, because oftentimes when you have people in this, and again, it's one thing I noticed in Train Dreams, like they're doing all this stuff, walking through these trails, and their clothes are pristine. Right, their clothes look all new and shiny. I'm just like, I kind of feel that they didn't have all these fancy dyes back then. Nothing would be as that bright, and you know what I mean. Like there's, you know what I mean, and it can throw you out of an experience. And with this, you had people actually look sweaty, right? Like sweat stains on the clothes, dirt on the face. I was just like, awesome. They actually made it look like they've been doing a thing.
I think it's important. I like grossness in a movie, like a lived-in space. Like I think the original Alien is a pretty apt reference for what we were doing. That movie feels really lived in.
Yes.
It's something you have to be aware of and plan for a little bit. We definitely didn't shoot in order, but we did anticipate those kind of issues. So like, okay, well, what level of wear and tear and having enough duplicates of the wardrobe and keeping the wardrobe simple enough that we can afford duplicates. And just sort of knowing like, is this before Tanner's injury or after? Because we're probably going to get blood everywhere, and we don't want to show that before we can tell people what happened. I think fortunately all the sweat was quite real. I know, like when they leave, that was done pretty early. And if watching the dailies and like in edit, you can see them getting tired. Like Mike G, Mike Gilhooly, who plays Tom, his pack was the heaviest by far. I mean, he's carrying a pickaxe and a shovel, and he's like a physical dude anyway, so he was game for it. But you can see it in the beginning of the film. He's got a pep in his step. He's sort of moving, but by the end, he's tired. He wasn't picking the pack up with the same enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And, I think it was Morgan's idea. We wanted them to look different too on that return trip. So, I don't want to give too much away about the plot because people can't even see the film yet. Unless we just found out that we're going to Sitges, the sort of bigger genre festival in Spain, which blows my mind that we got in. In fact, my reaction to our distributor who told me the news, because we are trying to figure out distribution right now, where it's going. This is like one of the biggest genre fests on the planet. And my first thing I said to him was like, are you talking about the right film? Like, do you really mean like Beyond the Drumlins got in? This is an honor beyond honors. Like, we've had a good festival run, but I thought our festival run had ended. We played a lot of great fests. It's been an interesting process from the physicality of that. And at a certain point, I think I've also lost my mind making this movie.
Well, Dad, I have to say that all that blood, sweat, and tears, right? All of that effort and everything that you guys poured into it, it was well worth it, my friend, because you really get a viewing experience, right? You really do. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of wondering what's going to happen to these people, and there's something that happens in the film. It's towards the end of the film. Let's just say someone's sitting down.
I know the moment you're talking about.
And that was gnarly as a motherfucker, right? Because you're wondering, how could this, what's going to happen, right? You're thinking, okay, I think thing is gonna, but how? And you're kind of taking, like, you see him looking at the floor, so you're like, okay, but then it's just like, boom, and it happens so fast. It happens a lot sooner than you're getting ready for, and so you are taking like, fuck, like it's just like, god damn.
Well, I'm glad it worked. I spoke to someone at the George Romero Thriller Fest in Pittsburgh, and we won Best Science Fiction there, but they were telling me they weren't sure what genre to put it into because we do have these horror moments that are quite brutal. And they said what makes them work is less about what's going to happen and more about when. Because like we want to like crank up the pressure. So you should hopefully have some idea that it's coming. So you have to sit with it, but we don't want you to know when it's coming.
Yeah.
So we're trying to undermine your ability to like, is this real? Is this not real? And when it comes, we want it to like really hit you, and make you upset by it. I want you to like be up. Like, I think viewers, and hopefully this attracts some people to watch this thing. You know, it's a funny film. And like, that's a weird thing to say that it's like got laughs in a cosmic horror movie, but you need to like kind of enjoy these characters before, we start picking them apart.
Well, I think them being together in a house definitely worked, because you like the moment, and they're all sitting and be like, it was you, and blah, 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 and you buy that moment. Right? You buy it. You buy this connectivity with the characters. So it's just when some things happen, that then does have you going, what the fuck? I got that. And it is the unexpectedness of it. Because as you said, like, I mean, you know that certain things are going to happen, right? You go, okay, well, I feel these things could happen, but it's when. There's a lot of times you'll watch something and you'll be like, no, it's too early for this thing. So they're just setting it up to kind of have you go, oh, it's maybe they won't, but I mean, obviously they're going to. So it's not here. It's there. That's when it's going to happen. So you know. And it's always those situations where it catches you unaware that, that's always the biggest. And they did that a lot in Event Horizon, right?
Yes.
You weren't quite sure, and then suddenly you're just like, fuck, God damn it, what have they done?
I like a slow, I think the sort of like magic heading for us was always like a David Lynch film that meets a John Carpenter movie. Bring like those kind of tones and push forward. Something that maybe is a bit headier, slower than a Carpenter film, and hits harder than a David Lynch movie. And I think the risk is that fans of either filmmaker are going to be disappointed. The hope is we've done something unique and can sort of speak to an audience that wants to watch a thinky movie that goes there.
Mm. Yeah, no, it was. Oh, it was well done, man. It was
Thanks.
really well fucking done. But how do you get that timing, right? Because I imagine when you're doing something like this, because it is all in just those moments, right? It is getting those fractions correct, right? Going, right, we're cutting it here. And if you'd waited 2 seconds longer, it doesn't work, right? So it's how did you get that preciseness, right? Be able to work it so it's like you hit it right on the line.
I just try to make something that frightens me, and if the amount of time, so I'm a weird person in filmmaking in that I write, I direct. The actors may argue with my direction because it's more like I feel like we kind of just put them in a position where they can just be themselves, and I can kind of just direct camera and that kind of thing. But then I cut the film. I cut the film and did the color and compositing. You know, there were only 2 VFX artists on this movie, and there are over 100 VFX shots. It's just my buddy Glenn and I, Glenn Teal, who works at Frame Store Los Angeles. You know, we go way back to college. We made our student films together, and we still do it now.
Oh, nice.
So I have a very hands-on thing. So if it can get through the edit and the shoot, and it's still like creeping me out, I just have to have faith that it's going to work for somebody else. I don't know that I have like a process beyond what works for me. I like things that'll, you know, I think one of the greatest jump scares for me is in Mulholland Drive.
Oh, shit.
The man behind the diner just scares the hell out of me. And I don't even know why, but it's still like that movie came out like 2001-ish, around then.
Probably. It was a while back.
But every time I go back to it, I mean, I know it's coming. I know it's coming. You know it's coming the first time you see the film, but it doesn't matter that you know it's coming because it's when. And I think that was a real Lynchian lesson.
2001.
I got it right. Yeah. I think that's a good example of what's in store for an audience. And what I like to do, I like to keep it slow. And then I want to hit you with something very brutal.
I think that's a good fucking reference, man. Like, and you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, because I haven't watched that film in so long, but the minute you said it, I was like, oh, yes. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a solid freaking reference. Nice.
Cinematography is very important to me. And I think a lot in terms of cut points, not necessarily in terms of like what's happening, but about how we're framing to the character. And this movie's mastered in European widescreen. So it's 1:6:6. So it's a little boxy, but it's the full height of your television. And that allows you to do really convincing, beautiful close-ups and wides and 2 shots in Z space. So depth of field. So a lot of times we're talking to someone who's quite close to someone over here. And those focus pulls become really interesting.
Yes, there was a scene when I think Tanner's up against a tree and
Jonathan.
Yes, it is like further back and like the way you shift the focus at times in that scene worked really well.
I love that kind of stuff. And that becomes really important for the pacing because you're creating distance in a different way. Because I think what I really liked and why I was talking about like a Carpenter and a Lynch film, you know, John Carpenter obviously shot things mostly anamorphic, quite wide scope, and those lenses you can't get really close. But he does have such a good understanding of space. So we tried to bring that, but also get close. A David Lynch film, you'll get like the details of like the radiator in a racer head, and he'll just be fascinated by something. And that becomes a really interesting balance. And I think in terms of understanding how objects fill a space is something that I have very strong opinions of, like where the horizon is, how the characters are moving in that. I'm not really interested in shot reverse shot stuff. I find it kind of boring. Like I'll probably never write a film that takes place in a diner. But being able to put Kowalski standing and have Dan against the tree, or the actor's name is Dan Titmuss, that then you've created this other space. And instead of having to cut to show it, you're just twisting the lens. The camera doesn't even have to move. And because the background is doing all the work, it's shifting, the leaves, all this stuff, it's such a rich space that you can, and that's something that you can't do in a studio. It's like those kind of moments are so important to me. And I think, I think that's something that I'm really excited about, because like our next film takes place in the city. So I don't have the trees to hide behind this time.
Okay. So you have a next thing set.
Kowalski and I are writing, and a lot of members of Drumlins are coming back for an occult noir film called Streetlights of the Damned. And it is being treated and produced just like a classic 1940s film noir, but with quite a lot of like more possession-oriented horror and gore and moments. I wouldn't really call it a horror film. Like the thrust of it is like your film noir investigation.
Right.
But with a lot of just darker stuff.
Okay. Damn.
Yeah, I really like shooting in nature, but I think anyone involved would rather not do that again. I think it's time. I really think it's important as a filmmaker to like leave behind an interesting array of work. I think Danny Boyle has done such a cool job with that. You look at his films and you're like, is he just got like a dartboard in his basement? And he's like, cool, I'm going to make a horror film. I'm going to make a movie about the Beatles don't exist. It's going to my son. Like he's just all over the map. And I think that's so impressive. And I'd love to be like, oh, this guy's made Blue Hour is like a fake documentary that has some found footage tendencies, and Drumlins is kind of like a thinky art piece, and this is like a black and white crime film with doppelgangers occupying a person. Like,
ooh, okay,
yeah. I think variety is important.
Well, I think it's like your favorite artist, right? And you love their debut album, and you're like, man, I cannot wait. A new album's coming, and so the anticipation, and you put it on, and you're like, kind of sounds like the first album, right? And it's like, it's well done, but it's kind of same old, right? So I think when you get like, creatives and they shift the boundaries, right? They move the setting, right? They bring you something different. That's when it gets really interesting. And you see that evolution, right? You can see that growth, right? The talent, right? The different things. And I think with this, right, you can see your evolution from Blue Hour, right?
I hope so.
No, you definitely do, right? You see that build, and I think when you see certain filmmakers, right, you can see that build, right? With certain actors, you see that build in that level, and you're just like, yo, this is incredible, right? And I think being able to shift, right? You might be comfortable in one setting and you do good stuff there, but shifting that setting allows you to show, yo, this is a multifaceted motherfucker, right? This is someone that can do things everywhere. And there's something about that's great.
Yeah, I'm like, New York City is a great place to be. We live here. There's so many actors and stuff. And if you can shoot in the trees, my theory is you can also probably shoot in the city. It's different, but there's still, it's verticality, it's feeling trapped. It's a lot of the same like visual themes, and I'm excited to do something different. I do plan on shooting the next one anamorphic, so much different scope, different film, and I camera operated a lot of Blue Hour, and I'm planning on resuming that. I would like to be one of those kind of filmmakers that can just sort of go and keep it small, keep it guerrilla, and make cool, weird stuff that hopefully can at least break its money back.
Awesome, man. Like, what do you think you learned from Blue Hour that you brought to Drumlins, and what are you hoping to take from Drumlins to the new joint?
I think each movie that I make is kind of a reaction against the last one. So like Blue Hour was, fake documentary. I think the writing process we definitely learned a lot from. So when we go into Drumlins, we definitely spent the emphasis on the writing was different. I'm not trying to say it was more or less, but it was different.
Yeah.
And understanding, and I think then like moving into, Blue Hour being a fake true crime movie to something else, this like kind of art house horror film, the emphasis on cinematography and stuff. I think we hit the mark in a lot of ways and missed it in others. So now going back, I want to simplify. If I never see another Steadicam again, it'll be too soon. I just don't. I want to kind of go into those tools that they used in the 40s and 50s. I want to really have something that feels like it's shot on sticks, shot real handheld. And yeah, adjusting the pre-production process. I think that's like I'm like happiest because you kind of like when you make a film, you raise and destroy it 3 times in pre-production and writing. You write this thing and then you shoot this thing and then you put this thing together, and it's 3 different things, especially when you're doing it at a low budget. Like you can try to be as contained as you want, but like very few of us have the resources to like do it for real. So you're, I think understanding that is something new from Drumlins. To like that you're going to have to like plant your crops, watch them grow, harvest them, and then do it again 3 times. And then you'll have a film. But for me personally, I just love the pre-production process. I love planning it out. I love the thrill of seeing it happen. And then I love that first edit. After that, I think maybe a lot of filmmakers feel that way. But after that, it's a lot of work. Or in between those pillars will keep you going. But in between, it's a lot of suffering. Or frustration. I don't know. Maybe there's a better word for it.
But yeah, luckily it all paid off, man.
Hopefully it will. I think I'm very proud of the film itself. I'm really blown away that it's going to have its European premiere at such a prestigious festival. I'm really proud of the run that we had, going to, we premiered or did like a sneak peek at Panic Fest this time again, that's where we premiered Blue Hour, and the HP Lovecraft Film Festival had us, and I got to meet some kind of cosmic horror heroes at that. And then, we had a good run at the Thriller Fest in Pittsburgh, another Hole in the Head, Anomaly. We've gotten around with this one, and I think the audience is, it's cool. Like people are either really all about it or they're really not. And to me, that's the kind of film you want to make. I don't think you want to make generic horror films.
No, that's the thing. Everyone's not going to like it. Anything. You know what I mean? You can't have something that straddles everyone. So don't even try and do that shit. Just try and make it the best that you can. Don't go, oh, we shouldn't show this because that might offend this and that. Oh, if we do this, that might offend. Like, just make your fucking story. Right? And the people that love it will love it. And the people that don't, they were never going to love it anyway.
Exactly. I think, yeah, not David Lynch isn't for everyone. So I think being a filmmaker so influenced by that kind of filmmaker is probably going to have a similar course of action in response, and that's fine by me. I know that when it resonates, and I don't think you're very likely to make like a real broad film if you're going about it this kind of way.
Oh man. Well, yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of it, man. I was extremely extremely happy to see that you had a new joint coming, and then that you were happy to jump back on the pod, man. So
always
for both of those things.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for talking movies. And sorry to derail this.
All right, I think people will completely get what you're saying, because it is one of those things, man. It is one of those things. But how can people keep track of everything that you're doing?
Tiny Voice is on Instagram. We have a website as well. Black Mandala is representing Beyond the Drumlins at sales events and stuff, and we are sorting out our international and domestic releases. Not exactly sure when that's going to happen following the news about this additional screening. I thought our festival run was done and we were getting on with it, but truthfully, this is like the biggest festival I've ever been able to be a part of. So that's cool.
Are you gonna get out there?
You don't got to twist my arm to go to Spain. I was very fortunate to VFX supervise a project there for a while, and I would love to go back. I know Mike Kowalski, who he's down, and hopefully, seems like a great festival. I didn't dream that we'd get into it. I didn't even know we were applied.
Well, I think that says a lot about the film. You know what I mean? Like a big festival isn't trying to take a shitty film, right? And especially like, yes, if it's from a big studio, right? There might feel like there's some obligations to take the film, and so you show it and you act like you like it and all of that. But with an independent, you don't have to. So.
No. This is a true independent made in the living room that you're looking at. Like, this couldn't be much more stripped down. And, we've had, was it at, I think it was H.P. Lovecraft. I was told there were short films with bigger budgets than our feature. And I know we screened at one in Indiana, Cinema Scares, like a smaller genre fest, but they do like a component at a drive-in and at this old old 20s like historic kind of revival theater, and there were some cool films going, and most of the features had budgets that were at least $100,000 more than ours, and we ended up winning the audience choice, which was quite nice. That we kind of resonated with viewers, and I think it's cool to make something small and ethereal and atmospheric and have it strike a chord with anybody. Is humbling.
Well, I think the big thing is, Dan, it's like you can throw all the money in the world at something, but if the components aren't there, right? If the story isn't there, it doesn't mean anything.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like the fact that your joint can resonate with so many people, I think it speaks volumes. Speaks volumes on, as I said, you watch it and it looks like it's a big studio joint, right? Their performances are fantastic. You know what I mean? Like the VFX, the sound, just the wardrobe, all of these things work. So this is like, it's a great film, and it's a great advertisement for all the talent involved, right? If I'm a big executive at, let's say, Disney or Warner's or Lionsgate or wherever, and I'm like, you know what, send me send me something so I can see what you do. Yo, you send me this, I'm hiring you, motherfucker. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, when can you start? You know what I mean?
I hope so. I hope so, and because everyone involved deserves more. I would love to work with the same cast again, every single one of them.
How many are coming onto the new one?
The only one that's not as of now is Emma, because she's SAG, but she had joined SAG just after she had agreed to do our film, so she got a waiver and she was okay.
Right.
But some of the ghosts are not coming back. They were Rochester, like there were a bunch of local hires, but the 4 of the main 5 are coming back.
Okay.
And then the woman who runs and has a very brutal scene with a knife,
Ooh.
She's got a much larger role this time, so she's kind of stepping up. So
okay.
I would say
about payment for that brutality.
Julia Kerr is fantastic. She's a former like soccer player, a college soccer star, and we brought a crash pad with us. We're like, we're gonna dig a hole and hide this behind the tree so you're gonna be safe. She's like, would it look better if I just do it? I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I can just land. I'm like, I don't think so. She's like, no, it's fine. And she did her own stunts. She's like snotting, crawling through the mud, no problem. So yeah, we owe her a bigger role and something a little meatier because it was insane. And she was just clawing her way through the dirt, and then she would just snap back to the normal person. I've never seen anything like it.
Oh, fantastic, man. Well, I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch the next one. And I'm sure everyone that, watches Beyond the Drumlins feel the same way, man. So, but hopefully when it is ready, we can have another sit down.
Of course. I will send it your way as soon as we are, when we got something.
Tremendous. Next year, or are you looking?
Shooting this fall. So Drumlins was made very quickly. I'm actually going to slow down quite a bit for this one. I'm going to shoot over like 3 months and take my time. I mean, Drumlins was a month of shooting, and it was we wrapped in October, and it premiered at Panic Fest in April. So and we didn't finish it. We didn't finish it till August. But so a lot of people have seen it at festivals in a very incomplete state. But that just gives you a context. The entirety of that film was finished in an 11-month span. So, not doing that again.
Yeah, I can see why. Man. Yeah, give yourself some breathing time.
We're going to slow it down. We're going to shoot over like 3 months in New York, and I'll be assembling as we go, and we'll just sort of walk this one through.
Tremendous, man. Well, as I said, I cannot wait. And when when Drumlins finds distribution, we'll update the website, we'll push things out, let people know. But everyone go check out Tiny Voices, go check out Blue Hour. Right, it's on all major streamings, I believe, and it's on Bloodstream. So I think people will be able to find that one. So go find that, watch it, and support what comes next from Daniel, because it's going to be quality.
Thanks so much, man. It was good talking with you again.
Yeah, you too, man. You too. And I'm definitely looking forward to what comes next.
Cool. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, Take it easy.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.